But C, though he was familiar, okay, here's a shift, though he was familiar with the art of the museums, okay, and respected the attempts of his predecessors to come to terms with nature. So coming to terms with okay, so attempts to reconcile, I suppose, perception and how the world actually is, did not despair of succeeding where they had failed. Okay, so this is implying that his predecessors made some leaps and bounds. However, they failed in some regard, and he just kind of picked up where they left off. And where they failed, I suppose, is in realizing his sensations in the presence of nature. In realizing his sensations in the presence of nature. I'm not exactly sure what that one's getting at, but we'll see if we need to. Okay, so we read the passage, admittedly a little slow, but that's just the video. So we're going to move on to the questions. So I'm going to answer these questions, and then at the end we'll go back and check if they're right. Okay. So, let's see here. Information in the passage suggests that the author probably believes that the act of interpretation... Okay, so now we need to draw back from the author's tone and argument. More so argument, I suppose, because we're talking about the author's beliefs. That the act of interpretation allows the artist to view the world more objectively. Well, I wouldn't exactly say that, or at least not yet. But I guess let's just read the answer choices first before we cross any out. Is an almost unavoidable component of the act of seeing. That one kind of reminds me of what I was saying earlier about how there's this intermediary called the interpretive that stands in the way of seeing the piece versus realizing the vision of the piece. So that seems okay. Was first popularized by C. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. What did C first come up with the idea of interpreting? Like, and I don't remember where this is, but I could find it probably. The author said that interpreting has been going on for a while. Here it is. Over here, I believe that the author was talking about how his predecessors, at least in the first and second paragraph, said that, they've been interpreting for a while. But either way, like, I can't imagine that one artist just popularized interpreting. That wouldn't make too much sense. Active interpretation became the dominant force in art years after C. This one, I'm honest, I would cross out because there's information with questions. It's either supported by the passage, denied in the passage, or not supported in the passage. This is not supported in the passage, meaning that you can't exactly prove that it's not the answer, but that's exactly why it's wrong, because it's just not there. So I'll cross that guy out. There we go. So I'll start from the top. Allows the artist to view the world objectively. Well, let's see what this sentence is saying. But there always intervene between the visual event and the act of realizing the vision, an activity which we can only call interpretive. This intervention seemed to be made necessary by the very nature of perception, which does not present the senses a flat 2D picture with precise boundaries, but a central focus with periphery of vaguely apprehended. Given the language here, where he's saying vaguely and distorted, it doesn't seem that objectively is the way to go here, right? Okay, so now we're between B and C. Is an almost unavoidable component of the act of seeing. So this one, like, A, honestly, like, if I knew the answers ahead of time and was told the answer was A, I might pick it. Only because, like, I mean, I could scratch out why that's the answer, but B, I think, really just aligns with the theme here, more so than C for sure. So let's go on to the next question. Which of the following statements best summarizes the central thesis of the passage? Oh, okay, so this is perfect because, if we've been dissecting those 4 components, then this should be a no-brainer, right? Because this whole time we've been focusing on tone, main point, argument, and shifts. So this would align more so with argument or main idea. For the Impressionists, each sensory occasion required a separate work of art. So, like I said before, this is just not supported by the passage. It's not denied in the passage, but it's not supported, which is equally wrong. The use of perspective prevents artists from effectively interpreting reality. Maybe. C tried to solve the problem of interpretation by attempting to view the world objectively. So these two have a distinct nuance to them. They're different in a very subtle way. So that's interesting. Before C, many periods of art reflected a desire to represent the world as it really is. Let's see here. So D sounds familiar, but let's read that again. And not only, Greek and Roman art, but the Renaissance and classical art were periods of art possessed by a desire to represent the world as it really is. Okay. It's a tricky one. So it's definitely not A, like we said. So let's start from the top. The use of perspective prevents artists from effectively interpreting reality. That seems more like, that would definitely be a thesis. However, I don't believe that accurately reflects the tone of the author. Because the author is saying that C was this revolutionary artist who was revolutionary because they tried viewing the world objectively, tried painting the world objectively. Okay. And I don't think this was ever argued, but more importantly, it just doesn't go with the tone. The 4 components we mentioned, they're all intertwined. They're not their own thing because the passage has an overall feel to it, they're all intertwined. So now we're down to 2. C tried to solve the problem of interpretation by attempting to view the world objectively. So this seems like, this is simple. This is, consistent with the overall theme of the passage, I'd say. Now D is correct in that it's supported by the passage, because it says here, there are other areas where they tried to represent the world as it really is. But is that the theme? Is that the central focus of the passage? No, that's just an anecdote to prove a prior point. So I'd say that this is the correct one here. So on to question 3. We're almost there with 4 left. The author's suggestion that reality is art before C. Reality and art. The author's suggestion that reality and art before C had been a will-o'-the-wisp. Cool down here. Can most reasonably interpreted to mean that the artists before C had not attempted to. Let's see. So we said that will-o'-the-wisp meant that reality was an actuality we can see but never grasp. So if artists before that would mean that artists before then had let's see, that reality and art before C had been a will-o'-the-wisp. Okay, artists before had not attempted to imitate reality faithfully. Okay, so they had not attempted to imitate reality faithfully. Now, that's not true, because we said the Greeks and Romans and all that, they tried representing it as it really is. And also, they're the subject in the imitative part. So that's gone. agreed about the value of Impressionism, that isn't really a focus in the passage. Impressionism is just sort of set as a predecessor to C. So this I would cut. Alt S, okay. Been able to perceive reality. I mean, that's a kind of a theme, but let's see. One might conclude from the history of art that reality in this sense is a will-o'-the-wisp. So that reality in this sense is an actuality we can see but never grasp. But C, though he was familiar with the art of museums and respected the attempts of predecessors to come to terms with nature. So he's acknowledging that his predecessors tried to do this faithfully, so glad A is gone. Did not despair of succeeding where they had failed. So, okay. Here we go. Failed in realizing his sensations in the presence of nature. Okay, so realizing is the key word here. So found a way to depict reality effectively, because they're realizing the sensations. They're perceiving nature. You know, they're interpreting it. Maybe they're definitely seeing it, but realizing it is the main focus in depicting in art, because you're interpreting, you're realizing your interpretations. So I'm gonna say D, but I could definitely flip flop. 3 is D. Okay. 4. The author's assertion that Greek, Roman, and Renaissance art tried to represent the world accurately is, okay, illustrated in the passage by examples of specific art. Well, that's not true because no specific art was mentioned. Control S. Not supported by evidence in the passage. For periods of art possessed by, but, okay, yeah, it talks about the Greeks and then just cuts to but. So, I mean, it's not. But let's see what the other guys say. Supported in the passage by discussion of the nature of perception. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the author does talk about the nature of perception, but not in regards to the Greeks, Romans, or Renaissance. Is accurately presented, the word accurately is contradicted by evidence later in the passage. Yeah, they're only mentioned here once. They're not the focus of the passage here, so I'm going to say B. 5. It can most reasonably be concluded from the passage that C's work exerted a powerful influence because C, okay, so this is way up here. We're looking for an answer that said that C was a revolutionary because he tried viewing the world objectively, not subjectively as before. So, what would that be? Okay, so A, pursued the concept of objectivity of persistence. All right, that's got to be the answer automatically, because we decided that beforehand. 2, it's consistent with the passage, and 3, this is explicitly said. Where's the part about persistence? To see the world objectively, there need be no mystery about this word. Okay.